Today we are going to be focusing on the purpose of creation. Now, it's kind of a big topic to talk about, and it can be kind of hard to say, who really can know the purpose of creation, or in that sense. But human beings, and especially entering these mysteries, we want to know how, why, where, and the reason, the impulse behind the first movement of the creator. So, and we do know the creator is within ourselves, our inner divine being. So we're going to be reading from the chapter The Realm of Spirit by Thomas H. Burgoyne. And he says, the divine purpose of creation is the differentiation of the unconscious, formless one. Now that would be Krishna or Christ. Now it's above unconscious and formless. Here he's stating that it's unconscious. It's unconscious, almost like super conscious. Now, the grand outcome of this divine purpose is the ultimation of deific intelligences, separate minds reflecting the divine idea of the universal mind, conscious individualized mentalities, possessing immortal souls capable of eternal progression, who as differentiated life atoms of the creator, the grand arbiter of the whole, become themselves secondary creators and the arbitrators of the destinies of the worlds, because this formless deific intelligence is the inner father within. It's the father that's in secret, the one that hides within Kether, or the hardly barely manifested aspect of ourselves. I say barely manifested because Kether is the most subtle of all manifestations. It's spirit. And we know, according to Thomas H. Burgoyne, the deific one separated into wisdom and love, the eternal parental figures. And we know that this wisdom and love is represented by Joseph and Mary, which come together and create the Christ, or the conscious principle, the individualized ego. Here he says, separate minds reflecting the divine idea of the universal mind, conscious individualized mentalities possessing immortal souls capable of eternal progression, who as differentiated life atoms of the creator, grand arbiter of the whole, become themselves secondary creators. Now, the reason why I want to stress this on this lesson is because it's very important, because a lot of New Age circles and a lot of esoteric initiate schools teach that, when you die, you just completely go blank. You become unconscious. You become lost with the wind. You merge with the one. Well, the truth is you have an individualized principle, just like our creator is individualized, super conscious. Its emanations, or its miniatures, also have their center point of consciousness. Now, the thing is, this essence is trapped within the four elements. The elements kind of give it a challenge and make it so that we are not truly aware of who we are. So the process of creation are dual and consist of involution and evolution. So spirit involves into matter, and then out of matter evolves the spirit with the knowledge of both. So you have the knowledge of the higher realm, the unconscious, and then the conscious realm, the material, so that when you leave, you have both, the eternal alchemical marriage of the sun and moon, the conscious and the unconscious, becoming super conscious, not to be lost in fog. For studying the initiates of the West, Samael, Max Hindle, various different initiates, all have claimed that there's a eternal progression. There's a continued individuality after death. But what is determined is this work that we do here determines what that realm after this life looks like. It's not that you can just go somewhere and possibly create anything you want, because when you go to sleep at night, your dreams are unconscious. This is something we have to master. We have to master our astral, our internal faculties, so that when we go to sleep, we have full control and cognizance over what we're doing. And if we have eternal progression, that means if we are born into a higher realm or reality, a more subtle world, and not just reincarnated here again, we can progress into the higher heavens. The higher heavens are where the higher angels are. And Marsilio Fashino talks about the different emanations of light and how to properly understand it. We have the light of God, goodness and truth at the top, the light of angels, intelligence, the light of the heavens, the abundance of life, and the light of fire, the propagation of the powers of the heavens. And that fire appears in the sun. So the sun is the physical manifestation of this. At the top, the light of God. What is God, goodness, and truth? Thomas H. Burgoyne, love and wisdom, same thing. Light of angels, intelligence, then emanates intelligence. So we have our soul on a microcosmic level. We have the soul, which is the son or son of God. Then we have the angels, the intelligence, the light of the heavens, the abundance of life, the kundalini, the shakti, the light of the fire, the inner sun. Here, the image of light taking different forms in the hierarchy allows us to apply a process James Hillman has called reversion to our thoughts and behavior. By reverting back along this line, we can find the deeper psychic containers for our ideas and behavior. The light produced by a simple earthly fire reflects in a simple way. The fire of the stars, or our individual ideas and wishes, can be traced back to larger movements of the soul, to multiple structures of consciousness, and habits of thinking represented by the many planets burning in the night sky. Ficino offers an even more elaborate hierarchy in 9 stages, corresponding, he says, to the 9 muses of Apollo. Number 1, the sun. Number 2, the firmament. The stars, visible white. The stars red. The stars mixed. Then we have simple, uncomposed sublunar things, or translucent luminaries. Translucent sublunar things composed of glass or crystal, translucent but holding less light. Interesting. Colors and images which may in the extreme be white or black, or in the middle green. So these are the different emanations that come from the subtle realm, as the sky basically manifests a physical realm of physical beings. We have the creature, the created aspect, and the being, the uncreated eternal. This is the father and the mother. The father, mother love, father wisdom come together and create knowledge of the knower, the conscious entity that descends, the Atman, or the Jiva. That Jiva descends, becomes a personality, individualized, permeated with the 4 elements, ascends back from whence it came with the knowledge of who it is, self-realized, maturation. And we go through these different various principles as the soul descends. I want to make sure that if you guys can see the board. We go from Aries, I am, Taurus, I have, Gemini, I think. We get into these 3 aspects as we are created in the heavenly realms and descend to the physical realm. By the time we're at Pisces, we're differentiated between Adam and Eve, basically. We have our physical body, and then we have our other soul half, which manifests in female form or male form. And then these 2 come together and form the union, or the Star of David. And the Purusha aspect, or the male, must utilize Prakriti, or the chalice, to be able to ascend and gain the knowledge of the inner being that exists within Kether. Now, since Kether is unknowable to the physical mind, we can only see it through Tiphareth. Now, Tiphareth is the Son of God, or Jesus, the Christ, the physical manifestation of that. How we would see that here in the physical realm, which manifests as bodhicitta, or compassion in the human heart. So we utilize this, and we use the bodhicitta and the compassion in our heart, that is the Christ, which comes from the union of our inner divine father and mother, the inner father wisdom, the inner mother love. We form this relationship with ourselves, and we crucify ourselves to the physical body. The personality is crucified and becomes eternal. And George W. Carey explains that the liquids of the body must be saved. The liquids hold the personality. So perhaps there's a chance here for crystallization of the consciousness, becoming a personal point of consciousness, or a center of gravity within yourself. So he says the process of creation are dual and consist of involution and evolution. The one is inseparable from the other. Paradoxical as it may appear to the uninitiated, it is nevertheless a divine truth that the evolution and ultimation of spiritual life is accomplished by a strict process of involution from the without to the within, from the infinitely great to the infinitely small. So he's explaining that these love and wisdom create these entities, these souls, or Adam and Eves. And they split into Adam and Eves. These are the souls that descend into the physical realm, banished from the garden, essentially banished from the bliss of unconsciousness. We acquire self-consciousness as we travel back up to deity. And we are eternally differentiated on a ladder of eternal progression. Now, if there's eternal progression, there also is most likely eternal involution. You could become pretty numb and dark and involved in this realm here. You know, we were here to learn and play, but we decided to descend even more than we were supposed to. In this physical world is Malkuth on the tree of life, which is the pinkies, and we've chosen to descend into Klepoth, which is the tree under the tree, the dark satellite. And we're here to transmute that because it's in our heritage to do good, and goodness is in our nature. And the supreme goodness, having that supreme goodness or that supreme ideal and not becoming nihilistic or atheist is the supreme remedy for this age. And to do that, we have to utilize the forces of the sun, which is the Christ, which is compassion and self-awareness. Because awareness and consciousness are two different things. You can be aware without being conscious. Notice in the deep sleep realm, you're aware, but you're not conscious. Now, the goal is to combine both and to increase them. So that deep sleep realm becomes a conscious experience, full of light. And your dreams are become under your control so that you can learn from the higher beings. Like Vishnu says, there's the angels. In the Upanishads, it says, there's the beings with divine wisdom. There's the ancestors. There's the realm of self-created gods. There's the realm of gods that descended and then ascended. And there's those with sacred wisdom. It says that many different spiritual entities, gnomes, fairies, sylphs, Udines, ethereal women, ethereal men, ethereal chariots, fields, rivers, and ponds. The spirit creates these realms within those higher realms. It's in our nature to create. The spirit Brahman within ourselves creates these things. That's why when you go to sleep, you're always doing activities. It's almost impossible to not doing the activities of the three modes of nature. You know, we have sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, tattvas, ignorance, or stagnation. To better understand this, he goes on to say in the book, to better understand this mystery, we must have recourse to a series of symbols. Accordingly, we conceive the divine focus of the primal essence as the spiritual center of a universe. This deific ray constitutes a triune Godhead from which emanates the pure white light of the Formless One. Or in other words, this center constitutes a realm of Sephiroth, a sun sphere of living potentialities, divine beings infinitely beyond the highest archangelhood, as we may conceive, it floating as a speck in the infinite ocean of divine love surrounded by the effulgent brightness of the nameless crown. The crown is passive in such a state. The crown is tethered. And that passive stillness creates two rays, love and wisdom. The eternal parents come together. The immaculate conception occurs and creates the Christ, the consciousness. That's just on one level. And that Christ manifests in the characters of Moses and Joseph and Jacob and Jesus and Jonah. It's the Christified self-conscious principle within. When we utilize the rays of the inner Father and the Mother, we activate our wisdom and love. Love means conscious love. Conscious love means to have exact cognizance and to understand love under consciously, not just because of sensation or selfishness. And wisdom means to apply yourself and live correctly. And when you have wisdom and love, it comes together and creates knowledge, or da'ath, the hidden Sephiroth on the tree of life. And that da'ath descends into Tibereth, Christ, that manifests to us in Malkuth. So it's a direct path. Follow me, for I am the truth, the light, and the way. The inner I am, the inner being that is always nudging us in the correct direction. We just choose to numb ourselves to our inner impulses, which are trying to help us to access this divine love and wisdom. Whenever we're working with wisdom, we're working with the Father. Whenever we're working with direct love, we're working with the Mother. Kabir says, the Father is impersonal, the Mother is personal. The personal aspect of God is the feminine aspect. The impersonal, not that it doesn't care, but it's just that it's so aloof and focused on the whole that it doesn't have time for particularities. And I'll read from some of the writings I wrote concerning these principles. In the natural world, we can verify that the physical sun promotes growth. The sun's electrifying rays allows the plants to grow, trees to reach to the heavens above. The solar energy transforms water as it evaporates into clouds, which then produces a new energy, or a secondary force, which we know as thunder and lightning. The water that pours down from the heavens hydrates and nourishes the plants and vegetable kingdom. The animal and the human kingdom feed upon the vegetables, which also promotes the growth. The more subtle growth that occurs is the mental and the intellectual growth. We see this mostly in the human kingdom. People are striving to become mentally stronger, learning trades, skills, language, things to become more intellectual. So that's the mental growth of the sun. We have the physical growth. The sun is trying to grow us physically through nourishment. We have the mental growth, trying to achieve mental feats and achievements. And finally, it takes a certain degree of consciousness to look at the sun and see its physical aspect only. That's one side of consciousness, to only see the physical. The physical sun, which grows plants, gives heat to our domain and gives our physical bodies vitality, energy to do things day to day. A more subtle degree sees through the physical and recognizes the cogniscience the sun bestows, allowing us to be self-aware, to be aware of the self and reflect upon the self. This gives way to all sorts of practices of the mental faculties, thinking patterns, imagination, self-observation. All of these things we are able to utilize because of the inner sun within us. So the individual who's able to pierce through the mundane forms is able to see the causal plane, is able to see where the divine purpose lies, and you're able to access the divine purpose. And I love that the divine purpose is the differentiation of the unconscious formless one. So it always stays one. If the bread is the one and we are the breadcrumbs, the God or the creator, the Father, or the eternal principle that sustains all of us is still a loaf of bread. There's still the loaf of bread. It's not that the loaf of bread got lost in the crumbs. The crumbs are there and the bread is there. The crumbs reunite with the bread, but they maintain their crumbs. But they come from the same source. So we have nothing to fear. Unless we deliberately go against the goodness within our hearts. If we deliberately try to do things to degenerate. In the age of Kali Yuga, we're already born into a society that made it very hard for us to, acquire the proper education that we needed, the proper meditation, the proper application of the mysteries. But now we can take our essence back and start climbing up the tree of life. Right now, the conspiracy is, well, I shouldn't say it's conspiracy. The truth is that while we're trying to raise to fourth, fifth dimension, they're trying to put us into the second dimension. The ancient orders of the West have already discussed that their goal is to put humanity into like a two-dimensional realm. We're already in 3D, and they're already doing a good job of it because we spend a lot of time in the two-dimensional realm already on our phones, on YouTube, which can be used correctly, right? We're supposed to dominate these dimensions, not let them dominate us. They want us to be in a virtual reality when we have the ability to create a much more organic, natural virtual reality through conscious astral projection. The virtual reality will take away and strip our ability to astral project and see into the internal planes of existence. This is it, folks. All for today. Catch you next time. Thank you. Bye.